So I've pre-registered for Reverse 1999 and I played through the first chapter on the first day. And for anyone on the fence about playing this game, I'm here to give you my opinion of it. This video isn't sponsored, it's just my first impression I want to do. And so I'm going to judge it by a few categories as I go along. So firstly, the aesthetics. This is what sucked me and most people into this game. The game is gorgeous looking and has a really unique aesthetics, and takes place across multiple time period and locations, which give you a variety of character designs. Even the chibi designs during combat is filled with these unique personalities that makes them really stand out. Personally, I really like the more weird characters much more than the waifus. Some of these designs are genuinely the wildest character designs I've seen in the gacha game. Not only that, this game has this sort of ethereal or dream-like feel to it. I can't explain it very well, but it's akin to maybe Disco Elysium or Nier Automata. Furthermore, there's a few places in this game that seems to be very heavily inspired by Vaporwave aesthetics. One point that I think could be really improved is the UI, which is nothing special at the moment. It is quite clean and reminds me of Arknights, but it's nothing special, and I think they can stylize it a bit more. Next up is the voice acting, which is the other major selling point I've seen of this game. I played with the English VA enabled, and I recommend most people doing the same, due to the amount of accents and multilingual characters that are present in the story. I haven't played this game with the other VA, but I'm not sure if they will have the same comparable depth in terms of accents. However, I do have to say there's a few things that are a bit weird. First up is the emotions of certain characters, which seems a bit off, especially during particularly tense scenes. Furthermore, the audio balance is quite weird, especially in certain places it was way too loud, and the mixing makes it so that I can barely hear what the character's saying over the music. And finally, I think there's a major complaint I've seen online, which is that the script is quite clunky and definitely needs a bit more proofreading. It feels like a translation problem, but they forced the voice actor to read it verbatim. As a consequence, certain lines doesn't flow as well. A gacha game needs a good story, so I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of what the story is without spoiling too much. Bear in mind I only play through chapter 1 and what I'm going to say is mainly in the prologue. So from what I can tell, this is a world affected by this thing called the Storm, which has effectively broken time itself. It creates these bubble universes which seem to form out of certain periods, which then at certain point meets the demise when the storm arrives. This wipes out all the citizen that is present in that time. When the storm arrives, this bubble universe is destroyed and seemingly leaps backward into a previous time. So for example, the prologue started in 1960s, but after the storm, we ended up in the 1930s. There seemingly is a new bubble universe which is formed further back in time, which then has to brave the storm once again. You mainly take the POV of Vertin. She's the equivalent of the commanders or masters in other gacha games. Vertin is a timekeeper from the St. Pavlov Foundation, an organization that somehow exists out of these bubbles and is unaffected by the storms. From the prologue, we realize Vertin, against the Foundation's wishes, is trying to investigate the truth behind the storm. Now, I quite enjoy Vertin as a main character because unlike other gachas, she has her own self-driven motive and desires that is detached from the player. She's also seemingly very capable at her job, so no self-inserts here. Now, there seemingly is another organization called the Manus Vindictae, which seems to be closely tied to the storm and seems to be set up to be the primary antagonist of the story. The only thing I can say is the story can get quite confusing when characters discuss this world without explanation. For example, they introduced this idea of an Arcanist, which seemingly is a different race from human and that can cast magic, which just hasn't been explained. Now, a gacha game can have the best story as it can, but it really needs to have strong gameplay loop in order to keep people interested. Now, this is a turn-based game, which perhaps is not everyone's cup of tea, but I quite enjoyed it. On the surface, the main mechanic seems similar to that of Fate Grand Order, which involves these ability cards each character has, but there's a bit more depth to it. Each card, when they are given to you, are by default level 1, and when they're adjacent to a duplicate of the same level, they merge and increase the level by 1, and this creates cards up to level 3. Now, once a character has played 5 levels worth of card, they can use the equivalent of an ultimate ability. That's basically the gist of the comp. Now, there is a stamina system to progress with the story and doing certain missions, but from my experience, the stamina seems to recharge fast enough that hasn't been a problem. And I have a friend that said he managed to go through most of the story without having a problem with the stamina, so perhaps that's more of a late game issue. Going through the main story missions, it seems to be half pure story and half combat, with these kind of flavorful little side missions fitted in between. that helps flesh out the world a bit more. There's more gameplay system that you unlock as you progress in the story, but I haven't explored most of that yet. For example, there's an island building sort of mechanic at the end of chapter 1. It's quite strange. Next up, a mini category I call progression. It's basically for a gacha game, how much progress can you make if you pick up the game and play for, let's say, like 30 minutes. Now, I personally haven't gone through this, but my friend said that the farming can be done really quickly. Even though farm for multiple combats, you only have to do it once, and the reward will be scaled according to how much stamina you put. Similarly, the dailies can be played on auto as well, and I think that can be completed relatively quickly as well. Finally, the main part of all these gacha games is the gacha itself. I've done a few gachas, and from what I can tell, they seem to be quite generous, at least from the start, with these gacha currency. I have to say the gacha pull animation itself is quite aesthetic looking. With the amount of currency they give you, as well as some really strong low starred character, there's definitely no problem playing this game free to play, considering the fact different starred characters don't have a different level cap as well. Another thing I want to say is about the duplicates, which seem to only give you minor boost compared to other games, so it's not super important for now, so no need to stress. And finally, I also enjoy the fact that the characters in the limited banner get added to the standard pool later, and the limited banner is only a temporary raise up. So overall, I'm not going to give this game a rating or whatever, but I definitely recommend you trying it out. I've been really enjoying the start of this game, and I'm definitely looking forward to going back in. There are a few problems here and there that might need to be addressed, but I think overall it's very high quality, and I'm definitely looking forward to where this goes next.